The time after the fall of the Institute was chaotic for all parties involved. For the Railroad it meant extra work trying to rescue synths left without a home. For the Institute it was complete chaos.
I can confirm, without a doubt, that the Institute is no more.
Most Commonwealth humans reacted with a sense of relief that the Institute would no longer pose a threat. Some, however, harbored ill will to any and all synths and Institute personnel that they could find.
The Railroad found itself clashing with Brotherhood patrols as it tried to smuggle large numbers of synths out of the Commonwealth.
The Minutemen policy of not intervening on the side of the Railroad felt like a betrayal to the Railroad High Command. The Railroad's sophisticated AI, PAM, proposed a direct strike against the Pridwen, the main Brotherhood headquarters in the Commonwealth. The attack failed, resulting in heavy casualties for the Railroad. The Railroad High Command suspected but never proved that the sole survivor had warned the Brotherhood of the impending attack. After this the Railroad began to exclude the sole survivor from planning sessions and from sharing intelligence.
There's no way we can trust you now.
I'm very busy. Please bother someone else.
Security mode enabled. Voice interface is unavailable at this time.
Just leave me alone.
Meanwhile, some Institute survivors began to gather together. Under the direction of the new director of the Institute, Justin Ayo, they began to consider their future course of action. The leftover remnants of the Institute no longer had the resources or the military power to stand against even the Railroad, much less the might of the Brotherhood or the Minutemen. After a raid on a Minutemen settlement went disastrously wrong, the Institute leaders decided that they could not stay in the Commonwealth any longer. They had to leave and find a place where they could rebuild the Institute in peace. The only ones that could help them leave were the Railroad.
Using some intermediaries, the Institute made contact with the Railroad leadership and explained their situation. The Railroad agreed to help smuggle the Institute out of the Commonwealth, but they had some conditions and wanted something in return. The Institute would build a basic copy of the synth assembly line for the Railroad to use and to create new synths. With a new generation of synth Railroad operatives, the Railroad would be able to stand against their enemies in the Commonwealth.
Suddenly, large numbers of travelers began to show up at the Nuka terminal, headed west. The Minutemen at the terminal were ordered by the general of the Minutemen to not look over the travelers too closely and let them pass.
Soon, large caravans led by experienced human traders headed west, with settlers going to places like the Pit, Appalachia, and even Ronto. Some settlers looked a bit pale and spoke strangely, but the traders soon learned not to ask too many questions.
With a working synth assembly line, the Railroad changed the focus of its operations. Instead of just rescuing synths, they would carve out a piece of the Commonwealth and turn that into a safe haven for synths. One day, the Commonwealth would once again be a homeland for synths. Whether it was through reason or by force, remained to be seen.